Reason I think 2025 is the biggest macro shift since the gold standard is I got to take you back to 1971. And in 1971, the dollar went fully synthetic. That was the year that Nixon ended the convertibility of dollars into gold. Now, think about that for a moment. In 1971, the dollar no longer represented anything except another dollar or a promise to repay. And when we think about that, most people said, well, gold was the trade in 1971. That's true, but it wasn't really the big opportunity. In 1971, the financial system had to suddenly think of ways to make sure that dollar remained dominant, because if the dollar wasn't convertible into gold, another currency could be dominant. And so what Wall Street did was they created a huge market for the dollar. Money market funds, futures, debit cards, mortgage-backed securities, currency swaps, interest rate swaps, index futures, zero-coupon CDOs, etc. That was the innovation that followed 1971. And in fact, 7 of the top 30 largest companies in the world now are financial institutions. Okay, well, another thing is happening today, which is that Wall Street and AI are building on the blockchain. And in the US, the groundwork was laid with the Genius Act, which set the stage for a stablecoin boom. And then the SEC launched Project Crypto, which is moving Wall Street onto the blockchain. And there, of course, are 2 other pieces of legislation underway in Washington. One is the Clarity Act, and the other is the Bitcoin Strategic Reserve Bill. And what that means is that we now have a new moment in 2025, which is we now have more things becoming synthetic. And so that's why Bitcoin, of course, remains the OG in our view, because you now have a digital store of value. But I think you want to think about the other side of that ledger. What is Wall Street going to do? And in our view, Wall Street is going to play a very significant role in creating a market for digital assets. And in our view, the biggest winner here is Ethereum. So let's think about what it means for Bitcoin's upside. If gold today is at 4,000 per ounce, and maybe it'll get to 5,000 per ounce, well, we want to think about what Bitcoin to gold ratio is. What percentage of Bitcoin's network value should mirror that of gold? And if it's only at 10%, then you get a $140,000 value for Bitcoin. I think that number is too low. I think it's going to basically match gold's value or even exceed it. And that's how you get to the $1.4 to $2.2 million of value per Bitcoin. So we're still quite bullish on Bitcoin here at around 110,000. But let's think about this other story arc that's going to develop, which is Wall Street is going to innovate on the blockchain over the next 10 to 15 years. Okay, and part of the story arc is, we've already seen it, is that we're talking about stable coins, which is tokenized dollars. So that's almost like the 1971 moment. But we're talking about tokenized equities, tokenizing credit, real estate, reputation, and eventually intellectual property. All things that are measured in the economy today. And I think there's going to be invisible measures that get monetized on the blockchain. Data collection, royalty payments, loyalty programs, agentic AI, and even important things like proof of human. So a lot will happen on crypto. And we already know Ethereum has experienced this ChatGPT moment because of stablecoins. Here's just a list of different companies and entities that are building stablecoin projects. And you might wonder, why does the US government care about stablecoins? Well, it's the same reason the US cared about the synthetic dollar staying strong. Today, the US dollar is 27% of GDP, but it's 57% of central bank reserves. That 57% shows you that Wall Street's efforts to make the dollar the standard of transactions after 1971 was effective. It's 88% of financial market trades, okay? But it's basically 100% of stablecoin denomination. So by moving to a synthetic dollar tokenized on a blockchain, the dollar could become even more dominant. And collectively, stablecoins are the 12th largest holder of treasuries in the world.